Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the short story called The Cigarette Case by Oliver Onions that was written a long time ago and is currently in the public domain. And it was written by more than 100 years ago. So we're going to be taking, it's the fourth story in the Midnight Fright collection. I'll try to find it for you for free online to link it to you below in case you're interested in reading it too. I'll also try to find it for you in print. I don't know if it will be for print or not, but some of these things aren't always, finding things. It's the fourth short story in this collection, but the final one of 5 in this collection that we've been doing a deep dive into. I've already reviewed for you a few years ago, called The Horla by Guy de Maupassant. So I started these remaining 4 short stories with The Singing Woman by Charles Dickens. And then we did Man Size of Marble by Edith Nesbit, Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and now the next day I'm knocking out not Man Size of Marble, done that one already, The Cigarette Case. A Cigarette Case by Mr. Onions is my least favorite short story of the 5, but that's not a big sample size either, right? So I'm only going to be giving this a 7 out of 10. And it's probably more like a 7 minus, like a 6.8 or 6.9 that I'm rounding up to a 7 proper. But there you are. Anyway, so what's happening in this short story by Mr. Onions? In the Cigarette Case, it's about 26 pages long. It's one of the longer ones, but I knocked it out last night in about 30 minutes. It was pretty fast, so it won't take that much of your time to knock it out pretty quickly. But anyway, so what's happening in this short story? And again, I keep my reviews spoiler free, so we won't be talking that much of the synopsis over the first few pages. What's happening is that our main character has a silver cigarette case, and he's handing out cigarettes to his friends, and one of them says, "Hey, I used to have a cigarette case like that. I lost it, and then I found it again." And that was one of the weirdest experiences in my life. Maybe you can tell me what actually happened, and you can be solved it. And then our point of view character says, "Sure." And then for the rest of the short story, except for the last page, we're going to be told the story of how he has and lost and then found again this cigarette case that looked exactly like our point of view character. So it's a story where we're being told this from a point of view character, being told that story by another person. And then for the last page or so, then it's like, what did you think about it? How can you solve it? Right? What happened? And so forth. So the cigarette case is the key point of view concept, and that's where the name of the short story comes from too. So that's the idea of what's happening. I don't particularly think that the concept of the cigarette case as this sort of as what brings us into it, then how minor it is to the short story, and how it's like not even mentioned for like pages, I think is to its detriment. It feels a little bit like Chekhov's gun. Right? If you recall, Chekhov is a playwright, famous playwright, and he said basically, if you're going to have something on the stage like a gun being shown, then it needs to be brought into the short story or play as a later point and be a plot point later on, or else you just shouldn't show it on stage, right? And the same thing's true with short stories. And in this case, the cigarette case is not a key plot point, right? It doesn't come about in any way. In fact, there are like 10 or 15 pages where the cigarette case isn't even mentioned, right? It's not even it's not like, Alfred Hitchcock's his mystery boxes that you would have and start a movie, but then at the end you'd be like, these don't really care, right? The MacGuffins. Or have the George Lucas MacGuffin where it was a key part of the plot, like in Star Wars, rather than just a sideboard thing to get people involved, but then you forget about it by the end. So it feels more. It's just a MacGuffin in short story form. It doesn't even affect the end plot. It doesn't have anything, so it's like Chekhov's gun, right? And I think this is a key example of something where the author, Mr. Onions, has not done a very good job. Also, because of the way it's told, I think what Mr. Onions wants to do here is to ground his short story and giving it a sense of reality by having somebody saying, "Hey, this is what happened to me," and then have this crazy set of events that happens that are in the horror genre. And then I think he wants to ground it, but what it does is, rather than grounding it like a lost diary that was found, or a journal was found, or combining real world documents, right? It feels less like this is something that actually happened, rather than, oh, this is just a person who's just delusional, or he's just finding things from a couple of key coincidences, right? And so forth, or he's just lying, or he's crazy, right? And so by giving it to you, I think those tend to be the interpretations rather than a more grounded one. You know, for example, Bram Stoker's Dracula is so good and so well renowned because all these different things are a key part of the short story. You have journals, diaries, letters, newspaper articles, right? And so forth, that are all a key part of this physical evidence that shows that Dracula is an actual real person. It underlines the central theme of what's happening by having all these documents. But just having it in a speech, right, I think it loses that. And I think that's another reason why I don't have this as highly rated in this set of stories. It's only a 7- and a high 6s because of that. I think that's a failed thing. So in addition to it, I just don't think the MacGuffin and Chekhov's gun works here. I also don't think that the central concept of the story works for what we're trying to do and what we ultimately find out. But your mileage may vary, so we'll go ahead and let me know what you think about in the comments below if you've read it. Also, as a reminder, this channel's name's The Worst Thing About New Books is that a famous quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about new books was that they kept us from reading old ones. And this one, you know, more than 100 years ago, is definitely an older short story that I definitely think we want to go and seek out. And this is sort of my major motive for what I read, what I devour, and what I bring to you folks here on the channel. It's definitely cigarette case is definitely worth your time. It's not, again, it didn't even take me half an hour to read 23 pages, so it was very, very fast. It won't take your time. It's definitely worth your read. It's just not something that I would put at the top of your cube for those reasons that I base it on. It's not that memorable of the 5 short stories that are in here. But to be fair, one of those is Guy de Maupassant's The Horla, which is like a 9. One of those is Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, which is like an 8+. Right, one of those is Edith Nesbit's, one of her best considered stories. That also gave an 8 to Man Size of Marble, and the other one is by Charles Dickens, one of the famous authors from the British era. So you know, from a while ago. So you know, to be fair to Mr. Onions, right, he is going up against 4 big names. One big name, just generally one big name in short stories, one big name in her short story that's considered iconic and a canon in The Yellow Wallpaper, and then one of Edith Nesbit, who's beloved and published a lot of stuff during her time, and one of her best beloved horror short stories of all time, Man Size of Marble. So it's going up against a lot of heavyweights. So, and it's also out of 5, right? So your mileage may vary. Again, I'll try to find it for you in the comments below. Again, if you read it, what'd you think about it? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it in watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.